Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Sure, mic check, 1, 2, check, check. Well, the problem is you got to deal with Struckle then. Thanks for joining us here on Arc Salt Lake. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Tuesday, January 6th. Tonight, taking a look at a busy 2025 for rescues in one of Utah's more prominent outdoor playgrounds, Grand County. So Grand County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, staffed with anywhere from 34 to 40 or so paid volunteers. They get paged out. Sometimes lots respond to the call. Sometimes it's just a few, and they page out again for more. This could be any time, day or night. Takes a lot of dedication and, of course, some skills. I spoke with Scott Soley, the vice commander there of the Grand County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Program, about their 2025, another consistent year for helping people in tough situations. How would you summarize 2025, and how does that compare to recent years?
I think it's very similar. We're seeing similar types of calls. I think they're very similar call volumes. Yeah, we did a few more calls than we did last year, and that might have been a few more than the year before. It's close, and so I think it's just kind of an average sort of year, even though our numbers are growing. I think just recreation in general is growing, and that just leads itself to, more missions. It's kind of like you put more cars on the road, there's a chance we're going to see more accidents. Call volume, though, we had 143 paged incidents. Now, some of those incidents get canceled before we reach a trailhead. So to be clear, that doesn't mean we've gone out and saved that many people. Some things that do happen is, we have Grand County EMS, and they're staffed waiting for things to happen with an ambulance, and they can get there fast. They can run code, and sometimes they're able to hike to the patient and deal with everything before we even get there. Or we have classic air medical. Sometimes, it might take us 3 hours or 4 hours to get to a patient, and they can fly there, land, evaluate the patient, and sometimes even pick them up and transport them to more advanced care sometimes before we even get to the trailhead. We had just, I think, a great response from our team, and we did a lot of work. There's a few more numbers on there. It felt very similar to the year before, and we're already, starting off counting for 2026. Not quite as heavy as I saw Wasatch County was out doing a bunch of snowmobile work recently. So it's kind of different all over the state, but we're already starting to tick some boxes.
And we'll get to Wasatch County in just a moment. We spoke at length about some of the nuances of search and rescue, and while technology can help, it's also been hurting in a way. Scott explains in a moment. Also, a year in review with some of the more memorable call-outs in Grand County.
With newer technology, we can see more calls. There's a lot of people that carry like smart devices that can detect crashes and things like that. We see them in UTVs or on bicycles. I know ski resorts are getting these sorts of calls, and we get those sorts of calls too. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to verify that, in fact, that there's no emergency at all, that it's a kind of a false alert. And so we might already be en route, and then we'll turn around and go back, and that's just kind of part of it.
When you look back at this year, is there any sort of call out that stands out to you as kind of like, wow, that was a little different compared to the norm, or that was a little bit more unique, or we really did a great job on that one. And, we learned from the last one and that's why we were so successful. What stands out to you?
Well, I think there's those calls where you really make a difference that stand out. And we had a few of those early in the year. There was a patient in town, dementia, had walked out of her house, and that in the morning we were alerted that this was a search, and the sheriff's office was able to put out an alert sense, kind of like an Amber Alert, if you will. And somebody who actually works for the sheriff's office now was able to find that patient and probably saved her life. And so, but even still, like just coordinating and working together and trying to, mobilize your assets. There was two different base accidents where somebody was in a situation where they were, likely to fall to their death if left there. One person severely injured, and so to be able to access those patients and secure them and then treat them, with our help from Grand County EMS and Classic Air Medical, and I'm sure a lot of people saw the hoist rescue we did in town. So working with DPS, those sorts of calls, and then right at the end of the year, I don't know that it was super unique, but it sure got a lot of traction. Was the person stuck in quicksand, and we don't get those sorts of calls a lot. It really wasn't anything spectacular. I feel that we went out and helped someone out of some pretty bad mud. But it stands out because it got worldwide attention. I had people from Europe calling up wanting information, and I think it's just a unique kind of wording. You don't hear quicksand every day. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of just the general, people out hiking and need help, or the mountain bike crashes, or a UTV rollover, something like that. And so there's, that's honestly the hiking, the mountain biking, and the UTV or motorcycle, off-highway vehicle sort of activity. That's 3/4 of our calls right there.
All right, speaking of Wasatch County and those rescues, 2 adults and 2 dogs are safe after their car became stuck in Wasatch County Sunday night near Strawberry Reservoir. Wasatch County SAR shared the photos. They said they were called to help the 4 when they became stuck in the snow. The search and rescue team there reminding people to be careful in the backcountry because the snow is becoming much deeper. We'll get to that in a moment. Since the start of the new year, there's been more than 20 avalanches that have been recorded or observations shared to the Utah Avalanche Center, including one just yesterday, Hidden Canyon, that partially buried a skier. Another one over the weekend that buried 2 teens in basically the same area near Brighton. Both were doing things you shouldn't, going under the ropes and going into the backcountry. That's a recipe for a bad situation to take place, as it did here. Reports state in those cases that skiers really crossed out of bounds and they didn't have the right gear. That's a problem. A representative with Brighton says the resort creates inbound closures in areas at risk of an avalanche, which ski patrol can monitor and then enforce. But when it comes to public land, there's little that can be done.
We have a right to go onto public land, and we can make our own decisions. So resorts will open up gates that allow people to access public land adjacent to the resort, but people have to make their own decisions. There are no legal consequences if you trigger an avalanche. If you get caught in an avalanche, you're on your own.
Yeah, the gate situation's interesting. Sometimes Ski Patrol will go out there and still test it out before they open up those gates or say it's safe-ish to go out. You've always got to be equipped with the right gear and the knowledge to self-rescue. That is just common practice with avalanches that can, by the way, occur inbounds, something that people need to be aware of. UAC warns that large, unsurvivable 4 to 6 foot deep avalanches have already happened. They've shared some of the pictures from people out in the backcountry. If you enter the backcountry, can't say it enough, we will sound like a broken record for the next 3 months. Bring rescue gear, a trained partner, tell people where you're going. Don't deviate from that plan unless you tell people, and know the avalanche forecast. And by the way, know how to communicate with the people and know the conditions that are unstable. So, meteorologist Sean Kelly here with our first alert forecast. Sean, happens every year here in Utah. We have great terrain to get out of the resorts. We have great terrain inbounds. People just want to go where the powder's at.
Right, and we've gotten a whole lot of powder here over the past few weeks, playing a whole lot of catch up. And again, with all the snow that we've seen, that avalanche conditions here will continue to get worse as we head in the days ahead with another storm moving in. So you have to be extra cautious with that and plan ahead. We're at 44 right now here in the valleys, and we're dealing with temperatures here up and down the Wasatch Front that have been unseasonably warm here across the area. We'll see overnight lows that won't be too bad. We're down into the 40s and 30s we go. We should stay just above freezing here in Salt Lake City, but we get ready. It's kind of sad to think about, but we get ready for the coldest storm of the season, some of the coldest temperatures of the season, and even with the high of 34 degrees, it's really only a few degrees below normal, but yet that's where we are. That is going to be the coldest day of the season so far, just because of how mild it has been. But finally, a good chance for some snow, including down here across the Salt Lake Valley. So we've got a first alert weather day for Thursday morning commute. We can see some slick spots out there, some accumulation across some of those busy roadways. So we'll talk about those impacts and if it could linger into your Thursday evening commute. That's coming up, my first alert weather forecast.
Sean, it is about time we got some of those weather alert days rolling. Coming up on Arc Salt Lake, why it might be easier for first-time home buyers to buy a house this year in Utah. Since the pandemic, buying a home in Utah has been a challenge, especially for first-time buyers. But good news, the tides may be changing. In the new year, the real estate market is much friendlier to buyers rather than sellers. Christina Flores shows us why in this Eye on Your Money report.
Most of the appliances were included.
This brand new house in Utah County has a new owner.
A washer, the oven, the stove, and the microwave.
29-year-old Connor Last is the proud owner of his first house.
So for me, it represents just a way to break free and build generational wealth.
He chose a house in this neighborhood because the developer offered incentives.
It was a good deal, yeah. I jumped on it as soon as I could.
The biggest incentive, a low interest rate on the loan.
For example, this house got locked in at a 4.99% APR interest rate.
The builders are offering really incredible incentives.
Sherry Salazar is the agent who helped Connor find his house.
Are we currently in a buyer's real estate market?
Yes, some would say we're not quite there yet because we're not seeing 6 months of inventory. However, I think that is an outdated statistic that people look at.
In the real estate world, a buyer's market happens when there are more than 6 months worth of houses on the market, while Utah is just about there.
So over the last month,
Salazar says conditions have changed so much that buyers now have a lot more negotiating power.
we're seeing a lot of seller concessions right now. A lot of buyers are able to get their closing costs covered by the sellers and also get maybe interest rate buy downs and stuff paid for by sellers.
That's because the number of houses on the market in Utah is up 18% compared to this time last year. And houses are taking a lot longer to sell. Early in 2025, Salazar says houses were taking about 30 to 40 days to sell. Now,
we're seeing around 68, 69 days on market is the average right now in both Salt Lake and Utah counties.
What has not changed much is the price of houses. That, along with high interest rates, kept many buyers away. Plus, Salazar says potential buyers express concerns about the overall economy.
So they're looking at the market and going, what if I don't have a job next year? What if I don't have the ability to pay for my home? What if something happens and the stock market crashes and everything goes crazy?
All that means there are now more houses for sale and more sellers willing to make a deal with buyers.
Right now is a great time for buyers to get into the market.
I do share a wall with the neighbor.
While Connor says he got a good deal, he has a plan to help with the mortgage.
I'm going to be living in one of the bedrooms and renting out the other 3 bedrooms.
He has even bigger plans for the future.
I'm going to hold on to this for a while, keep it as a rental, extract equity, try to buy other properties, and start growing a portfolio.
Christina Flores, KUTV 2 News.
All right, time to take a look at our forecast here with meteorologist Sean Kelly. Another round on the way here, Sean. Confidence level on some valley snowfall. What are we thinking? I miss seeing the, I guess, the confusion during the snowstorm in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah, I'd say confidence is higher than the past several storms where we barely had any snow. Confidence is higher that we'll see at least, I'd say, a coating to maybe a couple of inches here in the valleys, and there's going to be kind of a sharp cutoff where some areas really don't get that much, but then some areas across the benches, higher elevations, see more than 4 inches of snow. But things are much better here in terms of the snowpack across the state. Statewide, 74%. Just a few weeks ago, we were less than 35%, so that is a major improvement here, heading in the right direction. But with the potential for accumulating snow time-wise, just for the morning commute for Thursday morning, we've got a first alert weather day issued as a result because we could see some slowdown, some delays out there. This is not a major storm, but it will likely be impactful, especially because it's really at least the first accumulating snow of the season. Yeah, we saw a trace up to 1/10 of an inch out at the airport, but it's likely that we'll see more than that with this one. So the showers, that will arrive tomorrow will be as rain, and then they'll transition over to some snow by Wednesday night into Thursday as that colder air works its way in. We've got winter weather advisories, which, by the way, the first one of the season for the Salt Lake Valley, up northward here into our northern valleys, Tooele County as well, central and southern mountains here. This goes into effect for Thursday morning through the afternoon and evening hours on Thursday. Generally about a couple inches of snow for our valleys, benches 2 to 5 inches, the Wasatch back 3 to 6 inches. Many of our mountains will pick up likely over a half a foot of snow. And this is all after a very warm day. We had a 51 high temperature reading today, with temperatures here even this evening still quite warm. We're into the 40s and upper 30s here for much of the region. Freezing though in the Heber area, 27 in Park City, 32 in Price, 38 in Cedar City as we start to cool things down. A little bit cloudier up towards the north. Some high-level clouds down towards the south, but we've seen a good amount of sunshine. There's the main part of the storm moving in across the Pacific Northwest. That'll be sliding down towards the south and east and sending a cold front in our direction. As early as tomorrow afternoon, we start to see some showers, mainly up into the mountains, mainly further up towards the north. But as that cold air really starts to work its way in, we see that change over to some snow, and then some heavier snow starts to develop by early Thursday morning. You can see by the morning commute, we start to see some of that steady snow from the Wasatch Front down towards the south, up and down the I-15 corridor, with maybe even some lingering lake effect snow into Friday morning. So watch out for that potential. And again, if we do see that lake effect part of the storm, we could see several inches of snow, generally an inch or two for much of the Wasatch Front. Look at Draper, though, may see more than that. Tooele County could potentially see more than that with some lake effects. So watch out for that potential, and you can see some good snowfall totals further down towards the south. So those lows overnight, pretty chilly, down into the 30s and 20s. Nothing that we can't handle. For St. George, you've got temperatures here that'll be into the 40s as we head into the weekend, and then plenty of sunshine, but milder as we get into next week. And then across the Wasatch Front, we're dealing with temperatures here that will be much colder beyond this storm. So we'll see some lingering snow showers potentially into Friday morning, drier, milder into next week, hazier skies as well.
And looking at next week here, it seems like that unfortunate pattern is back with the inversion. On this subject, I know we finally got a nice dose of snow. I love the theoretical perspective of Sean Kelly here, like the next couple months. Are we going to catch up in any way to even anywhere remotely close to where you think we have been in the last couple of years?
I would say after this next storm, we'll be closer. I mean, maybe 85% of normal, maybe even a little bit higher if it overperforms. So I'd say that's pretty close in, to normal when we get above 80%.
People thought I was crazy when it was 903 here, by the way. I got to go back and look for the social media archives to prove myself. All right, we got to run. We'll be right back with more about the big announcement today at the U. era of Utes football officially beginning as Morgan Scally introduced as the new head coach.
Yeah, that's right. During the news conference today, Scally was asked what he hopes the identity of the program is under his leadership.
My identity is very similar to Kyle Whittingham's. You know, you win with physicality. Yes, I'm going to have my flavor and creativity that goes along those lines, but, you know, the identity is the identity.
Scally won his first game as head coach last week when the Utes beat Nebraska in the Vegas Bowl. We will be back tomorrow night at 7. See ya.